Okay, let's talk about the most powerful, most complicated machine you will ever own, your brain. We tend to trust it completely, right? We think of it like this perfect, high-def video camera just flawlessly recording everything that happens to us. But what if it's less of a camera and more of a storyteller? A storyteller that's constantly inventing a reality just for you. And as we're about to see, that storyteller, well, it's not always telling you the whole truth.
So let's just start with a huge question, right off the bat. Is the world you experience a direct one-to-one copy of what's out there? Or is it more like a customized user interface, a simulation that your brain builds just for you? The answer to that? It kind of challenges everything you think you know is real. Let's try a quick test.
Go ahead and read the sentence on the slide. Did you read, "I love Paris in the spring"? Yeah, most people do. But look closer. I mean, really look. See it? There are two thes. Your brain is such a prediction machine. It's so used to seeing that phrase that it literally corrects reality for you. It just ignores the data that doesn't fit the pattern it expects. This is a perfect, tiny example of your brain's storytelling at work. And believe me, we're just getting started.
So to really get what just happened with that little trick, here's how we're going to break it down. First, we'll dive into the difference between simply sensing the world and actively perceiving it. Then we'll take a tour of the control room, your conscious brain, and see how that reality you've built can actually be altered. And finally, we're going to tackle the most powerful storyteller of all, your memory, and find out why it's more of a rewrite than a perfect recording.
All right, so first up, your mind plays tricks. The core idea here is that there's always a gap between the actual physical world out there and the experience you have inside your head. Your sensory systems are incredible, don't get me wrong, but they are not perfect. They take shortcuts, they make assumptions, they fill in the blanks, all to create a smooth, coherent story for you to live in. So, how does the world even get into your head in the first place? It all starts with sensation. This is the purely physical part. Think of your eyes, ears, and skin as data collectors. All they do is convert energy from the outside world, like light waves and sound waves, into electrical signals. That's the only language the brain can actually understand. This is the raw, totally unfiltered data.
But that raw data, it's basically just static. It's meaningless until your brain does something with it. And that's where the magic happens, with perception. This is where your brain takes all those electrical signals and asks, okay, so what does this actually mean? It organizes and interprets the data, turning a jumble of light and shadow into your best friend's face, or turning vibrations in the air into your favorite song. Perception is where your brain stops being a data collector and starts being an editor, a director, and a storyteller.
And that difference between just sensing something and actually perceiving it, it is everything. It's the absolute key to understanding how your reality gets built, moment by moment. And this isn't some passive thing. Your brain is actively, constantly building your world from the ground up.
So your brain has two main ways of doing this. One is what we call bottom-up processing. That's data-driven. It's when you build a perception from scratch, piece by piece, like if you're trying to figure out some weird-looking insect you've never seen before. But the other way, top-down processing, is when your brain uses what it already knows, your past experiences, your expectations, to interpret what's coming in. Remember that Paris in the spring thing? Classic top-down processing. Your expectation of the phrase literally overrode the data your eyes were sending you.
I love this quote because it just nails it. This is the power of top-down processing. Psychologists have a term for it, perceptual set. It's the idea that your expectations and the context you're in create a filter for what you perceive. You know that famous duck bunny illusion? If I tell you to look for a mammal, you're probably going to see the bunny. If I say look for a bird, you'll see the duck. Your belief literally shapes what you see.
Okay, so if our brain is building this reality, where do we watch it? Where does it all happen? Well, it all plays out on the stage of consciousness. This is the part of your mind that you think of as you, that inner world where you experience the reality your brain has so carefully constructed. It really is the control room for your own personal movie.
So what is consciousness? It sounds super complicated, but at its heart, it's pretty simple. It's awareness. It's your awareness of the fact that you exist. It's the feeling of the chair you're sitting on right now, the thoughts zipping through your head, and the world around you. It's simply the subjective experience of being alive and aware of it.
But here's the thing you have to get. Consciousness is not a light switch that's either on or off. It's more like a dimmer. It exists on a whole spectrum. On the low awareness end, your brain is doing a ton of work on autopilot. There was this wild study where people who worked on puzzles with words related to being old actually walked more slowly down the hall afterward, and they had no idea why. That's low awareness. High awareness, on the other hand, is when you purposefully direct your mental spotlight. It's that effortful, deliberate focus you use when you're wrestling with a tough math problem.
Okay, this is where it gets really interesting. If our reality is just a construct, can we mess with it? Can we hack the system? The answer is a resounding yes. Our normal, everyday waking state is just one of many, and things like hypnosis and psychoactive drugs can intentionally shift us into entirely different states of consciousness.
Let's start with hypnosis. And first, let's just clear the air about what it is not, because movies have gotten this all wrong. It is not mind control. You can't be forced to do something against your will. It is not a truth serum. You do not lose control of your behavior. And frankly, it doesn't even work on everyone. Only about 1 in 5 people are highly susceptible to it.
So what is it really? Modern science sees hypnosis as a state of incredibly intense, focused attention. A hypnotist guides you into a state where all the background noise just fades away, making you much more open to suggestion. It's a kind of dissociation, pretty similar to when you get so lost in a good book that you don't even hear someone calling your name. You're just tapping into your brain's natural ability to focus.
Now, an even more direct way to change your conscious state is with psychoactive drugs. These are just chemicals that mess with your brain's chemistry to change your mood and, crucially, your perception. They pretty much fall into 3 big categories: depressants that slow the whole system down, stimulants that speed it up, and hallucinogens that fundamentally warp the reality your brain is creating.
So let's break this down real quick. Depressants like alcohol literally slow down your body and brain. Stimulants, everything from your morning coffee to cocaine, do the exact opposite. They rev everything up. But it's the hallucinogens, things like LSD or the THC in marijuana, that really get to the heart of our theme today. They don't just speed you up or slow you down, they create sensory experiences out of thin air, sights and sounds that aren't really there. They prove, point blank, that our perception can be totally hijacked from the inside. And this idea of an internal, constructed reality brings us to our final section, and honestly, this might be the most mind-bending part of this whole thing. We've seen that perception is a story. Well, guess what? So is memory. Your mind is not a hard drive. It is not storing perfect little video files. It's a creative process that reconstructs the past every single time you remember something. And it is deeply, fundamentally flawed. 75%. Just let that number sit there for a second. This number represents one of the most devastating, real-world consequences of our flawed memory. The stakes here are literally life and death.
Here's what that number means. In at least 3/4 of cases where people, many on death row, were later proven innocent by DNA evidence, faulty eyewitness testimony was a major factor, more than any other single cause. This isn't just a fun psychological quirk, it's a catastrophic failure of human memory. Our memories can, and absolutely do, send innocent people to prison.
So how on earth does something like that happen? Well, a major culprit is something called the misinformation effect. This is when your original memory gets contaminated by wrong information you get after the event happened. In a classic experiment, people watched a video of a car at a stop sign. Later, they were asked a question that casually mentioned a yield sign. And guess what? A huge number of them changed their memory. Their brains literally rewrote the past to include a yield sign that was never there.
And it gets even crazier. We can go beyond just twisting memories. We can implant entirely false ones from scratch. In the famous Lost in the Mall study, researchers told people a plausible but completely fake story about them getting lost in a mall as a kid. By just suggesting it and asking them to try and remember details over a few sessions, about 1/4 of them came to remember the event. And get this, some of them even added their own rich, vivid details. Your memory isn't just faulty, it's dangerously creative. And here's the kicker, the part that makes this all so tricky. A false memory feels just as real, just as vivid, and just as emotionally true as a real one. Your confidence in a memory has absolutely zero relationship to how accurate it actually is. We can feel 100% certain about something that simply never happened. And that's what makes these memory errors so powerful and so dangerous. Because to the person remembering it, the story feels like the absolute truth.
So, let's bring it all home. We've seen that what you perceive is shaped by what you believe. We've learned that your memory isn't a recording, but a story that your brain is constantly revising. Which brings us back to one last question. If your senses can be tricked and your memories can be rewritten, what does that make the reality you experience every single day? It's something to think about.